Yesterday at 11 a.m. I was alone at home. DH went to work early, and I was just starting my daily cleaning routine when the bell rang. I F30, peeked through the hole, and saw my sister, F36, and her 3 kids, 5, 3, 2. I did not open the door and talk to her behind it, and I'll explain why in a minute. She said she had an argument with her chronically ill husband, M34, and wanted to once again punish him by keeping the kids away from him, until he apologized to her for what he said, which was regular argument stuff. Explanation: she started doing this when he got sick. Every time she gets in an argument with my brother-in-law, she'd take the kids and refuse to bring them back till he apologized to her. He has a medical condition that prevents him from getting outside the house, and she has been using that, and instead of taking the kids to our aunt's house this time, she brought them to me since my aunt is out of town. She asked that I take the kids for 2 days, but I refused and pointed out how unacceptable and wrong of her to punish her husband who's already sick, and using the fact that he can't drive to go pick his kids up, or at least see them against him, she'd keep them away for days. She started talking about how her husband doesn't care about her hurt feelings, and how much she does for him. Also how this method has proven to be effective since it got him to recognize his wrongdoings and apologize, but I replied that he probably was only apologizing just to see the kids. I said it wasn't fair for the kids either, but she said they agreed to stay with me and told me to open the door cause they missed me so much. I refused and said I won't be responsible when BIL finally decides to do something about this and get the cops involved. She yelled she's their mother so the cops won't do a damn thing about it, and assured me my brother-in-law would never do that, knowing how much she cared for him, but I stood my ground and said I won't be opening the door. Period. She yelled saying I was unsupportive and selfish to keep my nieces and nephew out and refused to open the door for them. I suggested she go work her issues out like a rational adult and stop pulling cruel stunts that affect her husband and the kids' emotional/mental health. She took offense to that and said I was clearly on my brother-in-law's side. She shamed me in front of the kids for 10+ minutes then left. Hours later my dad, who lives in another town, called shaming and berated me for not opening the door for his grandchildren, then insulting my sister and siding against her. I explained my reasons, but he said the kids are with my cousin and insisted I go pick them up. My husband said I should have opened the door for the kids and that he could see how dad would be upset with me for not taking the kids in until my sister's conflict with her husband is resolved. He wants me to go pick the kids up, but I keep refusing, but I feel like I'm unsupportive of my sister. More details about my brother-in-law. He has a chronic illness that's gotten worse lately and limited his ability to do most things. To my knowledge he's catheterized, wears a cannula, and a medical device, so he can't drive or walk outside the house. My parents never liked him because he was already sick when my sister married him, and said she was wasting her life with him, but she always says she loves him, but I'm not even sure judging by her recent actions. We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Comment 1, NTA. Do not go and pick up the kids. Get in touch with CPS immediately to explain the situation. Comment 2, the kids are getting shuffled around and she's being an a-hole about, but I honestly don't think CPS would make much of a stink about it since they're staying with family members who agreed to take them in. They're being fed and taken care of, and often a situation that is just emotional misuse isn't enough for CPS to get involved. They need a lot more evidence of wrongdoing besides, well, their mom is an a-hole. OP reply, unfortunately, they are calling me the crazy one for siding with my brother-in-law, but truth be told, he isn't even capable of caring for himself on his own, let alone argue or start fights, so I'm 100% sure my sister is just being cruel to him for no reason. I tried to get involved but was told off. I saw my BIL during my last visit, and he couldn't even get up to greet me because of how sick he is. It's good that my sister takes care of him, but she's being unfair to him with what she's doing lately. Comment 3, you have nailed it on the head. Your sister is using her kids as tools against a guy who can't fight back. The guy is chronically ill and can't even leave the house to get them. She is misusive, there, I said it. She shouldn't worry about the cops getting involved, it's civil at this point, but boy, if husband gets a lawyer involved, will he have ammunition against her. Her husband, if he doesn't divorce her, will resent her, probably already does, and her kids, when they're old enough to figure out what she's doing, will resent her. I was relaxing on the couch while my mom was planning to sue my wife for my own children's custody. This situation is a bit of a mess. I'll just mention the relevant conflict at hand. So my wife Liz and I have been married for 7 years. We have preschool-age kids, and because we currently live in the same city as my parents, Mom would take the kids while my wife and I work. Liz is the one with a much larger income. She got an even better job opportunity that is requiring us to move to another city. I agreed since I could easily find a job in my field in the city we're moving to. But after my family heard we were selling the house to move, hell broke loose. Sunday, Mom and Liz got into a huge fight, because Liz told Mom we'll move away and hire a babysitter for the kids so she's no longer needed. Mom said she doesn't want her grandkids moving away, even said we should let the kids live at her house while we move. Liz laughed at her and Mom lost it, basically saying that Liz was an ungrateful witch, and that her grandkids moving will only happen over her passed away body. They began exchanging harsher words and Liz snapped and told Mom to but out of private matters that don't concern her, and said that she had no right to decide things regarding the kids. Mom firmly told her she was totally wrong and proceeded to tell her that she, as an involved grandmother, knows her rights and she will be taking Liz and me to court to ensure she still gets to see her grandkids. Liz was in shock. She looked to the left and saw me sitting there not saying or doing anything. She told me to check my mom, but I told her she was being unfair to Mom, and that Mom had to feel upset because she will no longer be able to see her grandchildren. I honestly told Liz that she was a bit selfish to not consider my mom's feelings and her crucial presence in the kid's life first. Liz started arguing with me, saying she couldn't believe I didn't stand behind her and defend her after hearing Mom saying she'd get the court involved. I said Mom was upset and cannot be blamed for her reaction. Liz started yelling at me, calling me unsupportive and an enabler, then went home with the kids, insisting my family is my problem and I should handle it, although this whole moving thing was her idea. Situation hasn't been resolved and Liz and Mom are getting more intense in their fights. I choose to stay out of it because both have valid arguments, but Liz has called me awful for not siding with her after seeing how Mom spoke to her and being okay with the fact that Mom was willing to cause us issues in court. Ida? I get that Liz wants my support, but I feel like Mom has been punished through no fault of her own after being a loving grandmother to my kids. We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Comment 1, YTA. Your mom threatened to take your family to court so she can get custody of the kids. She wants them to live with her. That is a disproportionate reaction to being told that someone is moving. Are you okay with moving to a new city? Sounds like you are. Why would you ever let anyone threaten your wife with court for doing something incredibly beneficial for your family? Why would you let someone offend you instead of offering to get on a plane to see you? Comment 2, you're wrong about custody. Connecticut has actually done away with grandparent rights due to issues like this. I was very glad when that happened and am now a grandparent several times over. I don't agree with a lot of things that happen to my grandkids, but here's the thing, they're not mine. Comment 3, it may have been her idea, but you agreed to it. If you had an issue with moving, you should have had that conversation with your wife. Agreeing with it to your wife's face, and then letting your mom do the dirty work of fighting her about it is cowardly and passive-aggressive. The fact that you are continuing to sit there like a bump on a log while your relatives harass your wife is failing hardcore as a spouse. Get your mother out of your marriage, or you won't have a marriage. I rudely asked my SIL to leave for therapy for the way she kept talking about my child. Using a new account, hoping her sister doesn't find this because I know she's on Reddit. My wife's 32F, younger sister, 24F, is in college in our area. Her lease was temporary where she was living, so she's staying with us while she looks for a new place. Honestly, I 30M am not a big fan of hers. She's kind of bratty. But what really made me not stand her is her attitude with our 10-month-old son. Anytime the subject of my son/kids comes up, she finds a way to make it about her being child-free. Example 1, when we announced our pregnancy to her family. Everyone was happy for us. Her reaction was, "You, that's so gross." then telling us sorry it's just weird for her thinking about being pregnant and glad she's never going to. That already put us off and soured the moment. Didn't change throughout my wife's pregnancy, so we ignored her. After our son was born, she threw a fit because my in-laws sent her a couple of pics, and she called my wife asking her to tell their parents not to send her anything because not everyone cares about babies. We weren't the ones who sent it to her, but still mad at us for shoving our baby down her throat. My wife's gotten mad about her attitude. Her folks say she's expressing herself and not to take it personally. When we let her move in, it got worse. If my son cries, she loudly says, "Oh my God, shut him up, see this is why yada yada won't have kids, etc. He's so annoying, he's so needy," makes dramatic gagging noises when we're feeding him fruits, and tells us to take him somewhere else for that, which we don't. My wife just tells her to ducking deal with it. I can understand someone personally not liking kids and never wanting any. What I don't do is go out of your way to always talk about how much you hate them. Anything my son does, she always has to say something. I don't appreciate that negativity towards my child. Earlier my son slapped his head and started crying. I calmed him down after a minute. Without asking for her opinion, she said, "You guys had months to terminate, you did this to yourselves." So I snapped at her. That if she hates babies so much, then she's welcome to get the hell out of my house. Don't understand what deep hate she has for kids, but maybe get some therapy, because it's one thing to not like them, it's another to always want to make it known how much you despise them. And that I was tired of her annoying rants while she's eating our food for free, complaining about a baby while she's acting like one herself. So yeah, it was quite a bit what I said. She didn't say anything after, but told my wife. Then their parents. And the reason they think I was a jerk is because I threatened her living situation when she wouldn't have any place to go right now, and were her only option. My wife agrees with me, which triggered an argument with her parents. I get she's still young and dumb, so that's why I'm asking if I'm TA. We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Comment 1. OP's wife's family is caught in a dynamic where everyone lets the youngest sister get away with terrible behavior for some reason, and they want him to go along with the enabling. The problem is much bigger than just that she's insanely, inexcusably rude. Babies pick up way more than we realize, often way earlier than we recognize. Being around that kind of hatefully negative response to his every action may actually harm your son. Comment 2. As a happily child-free person, everything this commenter said. OP, you are absolutely in TA. Sounds like SIL has been spending too long on r/child-free, which is full of child-hating weirdos. Not wanting children is a perfectly normal and valid life choice. Hating everything about children and wishing them ill/passed away/terminated is not normal, and she would probably benefit from therapy. Comment 3. NTA. It sounds like perhaps it could have been said a little nicer, but it also sounds like your SIL has been making a complete nuisance of themselves. She's living in your house for free, and is still constantly complaining about your son? I lied to my wife about what time our guests arrive cause she is slow at cooking, and now she's going nuts because of that. My wife has a huge struggle with time management. Whenever we have guests over, they always end up waiting for too long for food to be ready. Her argument is that she is struggling because there's just so much to do all at the same time. I'm the complete opposite. I get all chores done on time and never had an issue with having so much to do at the same time. Last week we were having some guests over. She wanted to prepare a few dishes and asked when exactly the guests would be arriving. I lied to her. Instead of saying 5, I said 4. She got into the kitchen earlier and started preparing to cook. 4 rolled around and she asked why the guests hadn't arrived yet. I kept stalling, saying maybe there was traffic or something. My wife began questioning the fact that they were even coming, but at 5 they arrived. We welcomed them, food was served on time, and we had more time to talk and hang out in the living room. My wife then asked one of the guests what made them arrive an hour later. He said that they were meant to arrive at the time they agreed upon, which was 5, and told her that I knew that. I felt absolutely awful, but I kept my cool and tried to change the subject, though from the looks my wife gave me, she wasn't going to let it go. After they left, she confronted me, and I admitted lying to her about the time of the arrival so she could be ready on time to serve the food, and also since it was not cool to keep them waiting like she did in the past. She said I was unbelievable, and that I never should have lied, but I said I felt frustrated with this whole thing that wouldn't get fixed. She said if I don't like it then I should do it, but I said I already do my part and never complain. She said that I insulted her and lied to and made her feel like she's a terrible host, then stormed off. I tried talking to her about it again, but she told me off, calling what I did sneaky and offending her efforts when I was just trying to figure out a fix for this issue. AITA, or is she overreacting? We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Comment 1, YTA. It really doesn't sound as if her timing is that bad. You told her 4, she had the food ready by 5. If you told her 5, the food would have been ready around 6. A reasonable meal time, just have a tray of snacks and some drinks for while people settle down. It is a nicer party, anyways, if you aren't rushed to the table the moment you come through the door. Comment 2, I'm gonna go opposite and say NTA. I am like the wife in this story. No matter what time people say to meet and no matter how much advanced warning I have, I am always late. Always. OP's wife needs to get over herself. It's ducking, inconsiderate and rude to always be late. She knows it. I know it. People who are late know this. We also know that our on-time relatives are sick of it. OP is sick of it. OP sounds like he cleans and does his share of the duties to prepare for guests.